Hello there, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Welcome to another Sunday edition of Jamaica Magazine. We have so much in store for you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. The JCDC Festival Song and Gospel Star competitions are heating up as voting lines are currently open. Who will you choose as your favorites in the two categories? Just in case you missed the live show for the Festival Song finalist, here are the highlights.
So if you never know, now you know. The best in the world is Jamaica. Born and grow, black, green and gold. We island is a masterpiece from the creator. So with a center, Massarova, Montego Bay, I saw the flag them from anywhere. And we love and give from above. I ask the eternal Father bless. Hey, from you see me, you know if you ask one question. Jamaica in my blood. Bam. Jamaica me born and grow.
Sweet Jamaica, me born and grow. You no have no country nice, so thank you, Lord, for this island. I'm me glad that them me come from. Although them say time hard, but no we no better than that. Bam. Jamaica, me born and grow.
Jamaica, the land of love, make me feel like say me life set, yeah. The jelly and the yaki and the saltfish love the vibes that me I get ya. The beach and the music and the culture I make visit and I forget ya. And the vibes feel right, everything alright, that's why me not left ya. Jamaica me yard, me yard. Jamaica me yard, yeah that place ya me yard.
I wake up early one morning and I draw down to Linstead to look for a friend of mine who called Brother Brosco. Then we started to have a little talk about everything, about the situation, and this is what he said: we need more love on the line.
In my sweet one love Jamaica, God know it rough sometimes. Can't turn a blind eye or even pretend that we don't notice the crime. But when festival come around and the radio come the sound, in the burning need we still move our feet to enjoy this here festival. Oh, we dancing same way, we'll be rocking same way. We have rave till we money done. Work so hard now we having fun.
No food and no water. And some pretty little data. We little and we tell our best food and rich culture. No food and no water. And some pretty little data. Icon chapter icons we raising, and we never done. We love competing.
Mama J, we love you for the rhythm. Big up Mama J, we have to big up Mama J. Come make we give God thanks and praise His name. Cause I feel with Mama J. Make we big up Mama J. We have to big up Mama J. Come make we give God thanks and praise His name and big up Mama J.
A Jamaica anniversary. Anytime you see me now, my jersey, me I celebrate our journey of liberty. Yeah. Oh, happy Independence Day, a Jamaica Independence Day. Oh, happy Independence Day, and my land is my day. We celebrating 1962, and I want y'all to do it too.
No one no better than yard. No matter how them tell you them a live big abroad. No one no better than yard. No overseas just sit down and a ball when. No one no better than yard. No matter how much money them a make over abroad. No one no nicer than, no one no greater than, no one no better than yard. And the way how we don't live, we tell them Jamaica nice. Food them how we eat, we tell them say yard nice. No talk about the beaches, Jam Rock so nice. You not find a suicide bomber.
That's right.
Big things that go and then a bashment tonight. Man a party back until broad daylight.
Reggae, 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 Jamaica, the pearl of the West Indies. Reggae, 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 Jamaica, #1 in the Caribbean. Sometimes the grass look greener in somebody else's backyard.
Sunrise over the mountain top, 96 degrees when it's hot in a Jamaica. Jamaica. I've been away for a long time, far from the sunshine, foreign nice, but only in the summertime. I miss the beaches and the rivers and the fun, music playing loud and the people showing love. And it no matter if me living up abroad, but things is not so bad, no way no better than the yard. So when I listen to the bad views and the talk, things is not so bad as they play and touch the tar. Oh, it feels like home. Feels like home.
Like 4 to 5 cups.
3 bottles of water a day, can maybe drink one now. When I go in, I go drink one again. And then in the night, I have to drink water before I go to my bed.
And I'm going to tell you, I drink plenty, but you're supposed to drink more than what I drink. I drink all a big buckets of water one time per day or so.
500 ml to 1 bottle, right? So that's a 1,500, yeah. 3 bottles of water a day.
I don't drink much water, unfortunately. It dawned on me the other day that I wasn't drinking much water. That's definitely something I need to improve on.
I drink 4 bottles of water each day. At least a gallon, I'd say a gallon.
Not even drink water today.
I don't really drink water, maybe it's ice.
Might be 2 quarts.
1 liter, depends on how hot the days.
I drink at least 4 quarts per day.
Every time it's hot, a gallon.
Can't tell you a definite amount, but straight through drink water. Through the type of work I'm going for hours, stay hydrated.
It all depends, because when you're in the AC and you're working 40 days, you don't feel like you're thirsty. You have to break yourself to actually drink the water. So it all depends. I think persons who work in the AC drink less water than persons who work outside.
On Get the Facts this week, we touch on a topic that even the young at heart will need to consider: pension planning. Watch as we bring you more.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. There are so many parables that I could use to introduce today's topic, and trouble no set like rain is one of them. Interpretation: we don't usually get a glimpse of some of the troubles or hard times that we encounter to make different choices. However, one thing we do have a glimpse of is the reality that there will come a day when we reach retirement age and will not be able to work again. This is where having a pension is necessary, and it is also a process that must start before we reach this stage. To take this conversation further is attorney at law and president of the Pensions Industry Association of Jamaica, PIAJ, Sonia Goff. Welcome to the program, Mrs. Goff.
Thank you for having me, Theo.
All right, let's jump right into getting the facts. This might seem like an obvious question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why is pension planning important?
Well, simply it ensures that you put in place safeguards to have a dignified life in retirement.
Right.
The reality is that people are living 2 to 3 decades after they stop formal work. So imagine you retire from your formal work at 60 or 65. You could be alive until you're 90. And if you don't have, adequate provision for your retirement years, you could find yourself in a dire position.
Right.
And the reality is that old age poverty is not something that is, that we're immune from if you don't take adequate steps.
Okay. So what's the right age to start planning for a pension? And I'm asking this not about just how early, but also when it's too late.
I would say it's never too late. So the right time is when you first start to work.
Right.
When you get that first paycheck, you really should start saving for retirement. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you've never really worked for someone, you should start from the minute you start earning money. You should be putting aside some money for retirement. It's never too late, though many of the formal pension saving arrangements don't allow you to join those arrangements after a particular time, sometimes after 60, after 64. So that's around the time when it will get a little difficult to put aside something that's meaningful at that age. So really, the message should always be to start as early as possible.
As soon as you can. All right. Now, I understand that a lot of people have the idea that 5% is the pension rate, but I hear it's variable.
Right. So we have different types of pension plans in Jamaica. So you have what's called a defined benefit plan, which tends to be many of the older pension plans you find. These are the employer-sponsored plans.
Right.
And what that means is a defined benefit plan means that your employer promises you a pension based on a defined formula, a defined benefit.
Okay.
So you could presumably work out at every stage of working what your defined benefit would be if you were to retire today or retire tomorrow. And in those cases, the contribution rate is often set by the trust deed and rules, the constitutive documents of your employer's plan. And oftentimes it's an expected rate of 5%.
Okay.
And then your employer would contribute whatever additional is necessary to meet that defined promise, that
so the
defined
5%
benefit.
or whatever percent is me.
Right. So that 5% is you.
Right.
You can contribute more,
Right.
up to 10%.
I noticed you underlined that.
Right. And then your employer, of course, as I said, contributes what's required to make that defined benefit promise to you. Then you have defined contribution plans, and those are a lot more common. And in a defined contribution plan, your benefit is a function, when you reach retirement, is a function of what your employer puts in, what you put in, and how well that money is invested. What the law says, the Income Tax Act, it says your employer can contribute up to 10%.
Right.
You can contribute up to 10%.
Maximum 20.
But where your employer contributes less than 10, you can contribute the difference. So let us say your employer is contributing 3%. In total, you could contribute at 17 to get to a maximum of 20. Now, if you have, so that's a defined benefit, defined contribution, and then, of course, you have approved retirement schemes, which are by their nature defined contribution plans that are set up for persons who don't work in a formal, with a formal employee-employer relationship,
right,
or where the employer doesn't have a pension plan. They can contribute to these retirement schemes, and those schemes are defined contribution schemes, and you can contribute up to 20% to those schemes as well.
That was going to be my next question, because you brought up entrepreneurs. It's easy to run my business, make some money, pension, think about that the next day. But you're mentioning that there are schemes that you can go in and...
Correct. So the retirement schemes, approved retirement schemes, were really set up for that, to address that element of the working population. So not everybody's going to be in a formal workplace, and not everybody is going to be with an employer who has a pension plan, because employers are not required by law to set up pension plans. And so if you find that your employer doesn't have a pension plan, or you're not eligible to join the plan, because there are some plans that are set up for, let's say, admin workers, but not factory workers, certain executives don't have pension plans, but the other staff members may have a pension plan. So you may find that your employer has a pension plan, but you're not eligible, or your employer doesn't have a pension plan, or you're just not working with an employer at all. So in any of those circumstances, the retirement schemes that are being offered in the market are options for you. So there's never a situation where someone who is working cannot put aside for a pension. And it's different from your general ordinary savings. And I think that's important for people to understand. A lot of people say, oh, I don't need to save for a pension because I can do it myself, right? But the biggest benefit in saving in a pension or a kind of retirement arrangement is that you get the income tax benefit, i.e. you're able to save before your income is taxed. You save on your gross earnings, not your net. So persons who say, I'm going to just, save with any of the, investment houses out there, that's fine, but you're always doing that after your income is taxed on your net earnings.
So that 17% you mentioned takes on a whole different hue now.
Exactly. And then the compounding of those investment returns, all of those accretions, those are not taxed either. So you find that you have this compounding effect, which of course increases your pension account, so to speak. Now I want to be clear, it's not that your income will never be taxed. It's really a tax deferred system. And so in that case, there's a tax advantage in that your income isn't taxed now. The returns on your investments aren't taxed. But when you hit retirement, and we have what's called a decumulation event, meaning you're pulling down the pension now. At that point, tax would usually be applied. There are usually some exceptions, but typically you would find that you'd pay tax at that point.
This is Get the Facts. You're giving us quite a bit. I'm going to ask you some more. The pension, you retire at 65. You've saved all this time. You live until 90, 100. Are there any challenges in that? Can you live beyond your pension?
Yes, and that's one of the biggest risks, what we call longevity risk, where you outlive
too
your
long.
pension.
Oh,
well,
man.
I don't know if I would ever say that you've lived too long, but longer than you planned for. And in a case like that, because nobody quite knows, right? And what happens is that there's really no kind of fix for that, except that oftentimes your investment managers can do projections for you and give you an idea of really how long you should be saving, how long out into retirement you should be saving, and also how much you should be saving. The general test is what we call the replacement ratio, which is 80%. Try and save such that every year you are really having 80% in savings of what you would have been working during your working life. So 80% of your last average, earnings, salary, is what you should be receiving in retirement.
Okay.
Now, some people, their retirement years are a lot smoother than others, of course.
Yeah.
And so these life events, sometimes you may get an unexpected, unfortunate health diagnosis. You may find that you were counting on yourself and your spouse's income combined into retirement, but your spouse, may predecease you and you're not, or your partner.
Natural disaster.
And natural disaster, you thought, because our homes tend to be our biggest retirement assets.
Right.
Well, Jamaicans feel very strongly about owning their own homes, and oftentimes that's a big part of your retirement security. But as you said, a natural disaster, that could wipe that out. And we need to be careful as well. Your retirement savings should never be seen as a substitute for insurance. So you're expected, of course, to do all the other things and take the precautions like life insurance, health insurance, property insurance, and manage those risks so that you don't find that your retirement pot, your retirement savings, has to take care of those other things because you didn't put those safeguards in place.
This is a portion of your plan.
It's
not the whole plan.
I love that. It's not the whole plan. It's a central part of the plan, but
Yes.
it shouldn't be seen as the whole plan.
We're going to get some more of the facts. This conversation is wonderful, but we're going to take a break right now. Please don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Get the Facts. We are continuing our conversation on the importance of pension contribution and retirement planning. Our guest is attorney at law and president of the Pensions Industry Association of Jamaica, PIAJ, Sonia Goff. Lady Goff, let's pick up right where we ended. Now, you were talking about contributions. We had went over percentages. We had even looked at mitigating challenges in the future. Now, there's something that people experience. They leave a job. They have the option to take what they've accumulated in pension. I want your advice. Should they do that?
Well, I'm asked this question often, and I always feel compelled to give an authentic response.
Yes, please.
Which is, I always feel I need to confess that when I left my first job, I had that option before me. Mm-hmm. And even though I was, practicing as an attorney in pensions, and I was advocating for people to keep their money and port it to another plan, don't take any. When I saw those figures,
run with it.
And I mean, maybe now I look back and that, the figures probably were quite small, would probably appear quite small to me now. Yeah. But then I was like, wow. So yeah, I took half of what was there and spent it. And I will tell you, I could not tell you no. Like, I couldn't tell you the pair of shoes I bought for those. I spent it. It's done. I can't account for it. But I did save 50% of it. And it continued to build up my retirement account. So my advice is don't do what I did. Please port everything.
Yes.
You never had it before you left the job. It was really nothing to, you weren't counting on it. And so just ignore it as you were ignoring it and just port it to another pension arrangement. That's one of the benefits that we have in our pension legislation is that you're able to port from your exiting workplace to a retirement scheme or to a new employer's retirement pension arrangement.
Right. That covers everybody.
Yes, that covers everyone. And more and more, you're going to see the locking in of pensions. And we're expecting that when phase 2 comes in, when the Pensions Act is amended, you're going to see some locking in features where it's going to become a lot more difficult for people to take their retirement income as cash.
So it's the dichotomy between the conversation. Yeah, but it's my money, but it's also my future.
Exactly. And so there's a kind of protecting you from yourself.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. So how do I keep abreast of my contributions?
Good question. So for the employer-managed pension plans called superannuation schemes, you have trustees. And trustees are the ones really tasked with managing the pension plan, ensuring persons get their benefits on time, their benefit statements are given, they're accurate, up to date.
Right.
And so your trustees are who are, kind of primarily accountable to you for your pension.
Yes.
And you have access to your trustees. The law requires that. You also have access to your trustees through the typical HR manager. As well, trustees will appoint administrators, and administrators manage things like your benefit statements, the record keeping of the pension plan.
Right.
And so administrators as well are a port of access to understanding what's happening with your pension. The law requires all pension plans to give members benefit statements throughout the year periodically, and so it's incumbent on you to check your benefit statement to ensure that it's accurate.
Right.
And so you do have a responsibility where that is concerned to keep abreast of it, to ensure you know what's happening. And when it comes to retirement schemes now, that's a little different because, of course, you still have a board of trustees, but there's no HR department that you can just knock on the door very easily. And so you would contact your, there's usually some kind of contact officer that you can speak to if you have a question about your pension benefit with your retirement scheme. And many of the retirement scheme providers as well have online portals where you can log in and you can see your benefit statement. You can make a query, raise a complaint if there's any concern.
But I am curious, though. The trustee would also help me to understand the pension statement, right?
So the trustees usually would delegate that responsibility to the administrator. So let me give you an example. Let's say you have, Theodore and Co. You have 20 employees and they're all a part of your pension plan.
Right.
You would have an administrator, could be any of the investment administrator providers out there, Barita, Proven, VM, they're, NCB, they're out there. And so oftentimes it's the administrator who's the one who's actually dealing with that data. Okay. And if you have questions, you're usually directed to the administrator.
I see.
Ultimately, though, the trustees cannot divest themselves of these responsibilities. So the investment management and administration is fundamentally and ultimately the responsibility of the trustees, though it's delegated.
We are pretty much out of time, but I feel I have to give you that moment to speak directly to our audience, a whole broad spectrum, young, old, entrepreneurs, employed. What's your final word on pensions?
I would encourage my fellow Jamaicans to take retirement security seriously. It's important to start right away. If you haven't made that first step, make it now. And save as much as possible. Keep reflecting, going back, checking to see if now is a time to save more. And save as much as you're able to. It will make all the difference to ensure that you have retirement security and you can live an improved, dignified life in retirement.
All right. This has been Get the Facts. Our guest was attorney at law and president of the Pensions Industry Association of Jamaica, PIAJ, Sonia Goff. Thank you for watching. And until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Take good care.
As a country, we are indeed, if we never knew, a part of a global community. And there is a merging of cultures, in a sense, where we have lost or losing our individual identities because we are now part of this larger community. And I think that also came out of the COVID experience, where we couldn't solve our own problems without interfacing with others. But the NCD pandemic that we face, which is a far bigger pandemic, it tells us that we accept a lot more readily what traditionally has been alien to our culture, and almost accept it more readily than traditionally what we are accustomed to, because we view it, perception-wise, as a more superior form of life, living, and enjoyment. We can't go out there and tell people, look at the salt, sugars, fats, and decide your mind in your own interest. That's part of the narrative. But we're going to have to do a lot more than that. We're going to have to help people to explain quality of life. We're going to have to help them explain satisfaction that can be derived from those scientific data. The other very important message around this culture and merging of culture is the extent to which we have to appeal to particular stakeholders who oftentimes, to my mind, in this country anyway, do not sufficiently have an appreciation between the links around consumption and the impact it has on the population. Oftentimes, their population who are their consumers, or their mothers, or their fathers, or their brothers, or sisters, or children. I believe that our mercantile class, who again clearly has their mission, there is sufficient insensitivity, I believe, and too much of it, to what we produce for the consuming public, our consumers, our workers, our family members, our community, because we're all merged as one, and the links between that objective and what the long-term impact is on the population and on those very same people.
And just like that, we are signing out for today. Do not worry, you can rewatch this offering or other content like this by just visiting our website, jrs.gov.jm. Do join us again on the same station tomorrow as we bring you another informative, educational and entertaining package of Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thank you so much for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.